Arbitrary. Hello there, it's Samantha. So today I'm coming to you with my September book haul and wrap up, but I'm actually filming it on 2 separate days, so this is just the first day of filming. So in the next bit, I'm going to be in a different location and I'm going to be looking different and it's just going to be different. But basically, I wanted to film this little clip before I go back to uni just because I don't know how much shelf space I'm going to have. So I don't really want to bring the books that I finished already to uni with me. I don't like having just a little picture, so I just thought I'd film this and then leave these books behind at home. If I have space, then I'll come back and get them one time, but if not, then yeah, they're just gonna stay here while I'm at uni because I've already read them, so I don't need them with me. That's enough prefacing. On to the books that I've read so far. So far in the month of September, I have read 3 books, which I'm quite happy with because in August I read 4 books during the whole month. So yeah, the fact that I've already read 3 is pretty good, and I'm like in such a reading mood right now, so it's great. I feel like I'm gonna really smash it this month. Anyway, but yeah, on to the 3 books that I've read so far. So the first book that I read this month was actually a poetry collection, and that was Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur. This is probably the most famous poetry collection out there, I swear. Everyone always talks about how great it is. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was very disappointed by this book. I feel like this book has been so overhyped. Everyone always goes on about how like this is just the best thing ever, and I feel like this is a lot of people's introduction to poetry and they just fall in love with it. I personally was not a fan. I only gave this poetry collection a 2 out of 5 stars, unfortunately, because it just wasn't exactly for me. This poetry collection basically follows the breakdown of a relationship and then the aftermath. The main reason why I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars was because I did not enjoy the first 3 sections, which were all about the relationship, getting into the relationship, and then the fallout of the relationship. I just wasn't a fan of those 3 parts. I thought that they were very average. Like, none of the poems really stood out to me. I will say though that the last part, which was kind of after the breakup and kind of like putting herself back together, that part was just amazing. I actually, as you can see, I tabbed some things, which I like never tab things. The last section was really great, and like it's one section that I think I could reread again and again, especially if I was going through a dark time. I think it would be the perfect thing. That's why I'm actually holding on to this book. Otherwise I would just unhaul it because I didn't enjoy it so much. But I will say that the last part was amazing, and if I were to rate the last part, it would be 5 out of 5 stars, but with the first 3 parts, like some of them would be 1 out of 5 stars. So overall I think a 2 is fair enough. I'm sad that I didn't enjoy this as much as everyone else, but it is what it is. The next book that I finished during the month was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This is a collection of 5 novellas set in the Throne of Glass world, which happened before the first book. I decided to start rereading the series, so I decided to start with this, which was not the place to start because honestly, I was so bored during a lot of these because I've read them before. I'm not a huge fan of novellas, I think I've realized. I don't think this was entirely necessary, but I think if I reread the books now, then I might pick up on things, because when I first read these novellas, I read them after I'd already read the first 3 books, so I feel like there's probably stuff that I'll pick up in the first few books that relate to some of the stories in this. Overall, I gave this collection a 3.8 out of 5 stars, which seems very specific, but that was just, you know, the breakdown. The third book that I've read so far in the month was Moxie by Jennifer Matthew, or Matthew, I don't know how you say it, but oh my god, this book was amazing. I ended up giving this book a 4.75 out of 5 stars. If for some reason you don't know what this book is about, because this book has been making the rounds on BookTube, but if you don't know what it's about, this book follows our main character Viv, and she is absolutely fed up of all the sexism that's been going on in her school. The boys are extremely sexist. They wear gross t-shirts with horrible slogans on them. They tell girls to go make them a sandwich and shit like that, which is so like, what, even like 2012? Like, so stupid. It just shouldn't be a thing anyway, because anyone can make a fucking sandwich, FYI. It's not hard. And also on top of that, there's a terrible, very sexist, arbitrary dress code that which only seems to affect the girls, and it's just ridiculous. So she's absolutely fed up of it, and she decides to start making a zine called Moxie, and she gets inspiration from her mom, who used to be, they called it a riot girl, and back in like the 80s, 90s, whenever it was. So she starts making this feminist zine called Moxie and distributing it anonymously throughout the school, and it's about everything that happens after that. It is about feminism, it is about girls working together, and oh my god, this book was amazing. This book was so empowering. I love to see girls supporting girls instead of girls tearing girls down, because in so many contemporaries we have like a girl who's a bully and she just tears other girls down. It's like, no, let's all work together. Honestly, I absolutely loved the plot. I loved everything that happened. Like, it was frustrating, don't get me wrong, and I don't love that it happened in real life, but I loved the way that the story progressed. I really loved the writing style. It was pretty quick to read, but it still packed a punch, and I did enjoy the characters, but that is why I knocked it down by a 1/4 of a star, because I just thought that the characters could have been a little bit further developed. I just didn't feel like I connected with them as much as I could have. But the characters were still really, really strong and I did really enjoy them. But I just felt like they could have been a little bit further developed. So that's why I knocked it down to 4.75 instead of a full 5. It was just so amazing. And I could definitely relate to the dress code situation. At my school, we weren't allowed to show our shoulders, which is a ridiculous rule because, like, why? And the worst thing was the reasoning that they gave. They said that it wasn't just distracting for the boys, but it was also distracting for the male teachers. It's like, how is a shoulder distracting? I don't understand. Those were the first 3 books I read this month. I will be back in a different outfit in a second with the rest of the books I read this month. Hello there! I'm back with the second part of my wrap up. I know it's the same video, but I feel like I need to say hello again because it's like at least 3 weeks later. It's been quite a long time since I filmed that first part. But yes, I'm here to talk about the rest of the books that I read during September. I managed to read 6 books in the month. I'm also going to be hauling all of the books that I bought this month. I think I only acquired 4 books in the month, so it's not a massive haul, but I will do that as well. But I'm going to talk about the books that I read first because I already talked about books that I read. So yeah, I'll just get those out of the way and then I'll haul the 4 books that I have to talk about. So the 4th book that I read in the month of September was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I'm sure that you know what this book is about, but in case you don't, this is a middle grade book about a girl called Cass who, after a near-death experience, has now gained the ability to see ghosts, and she can actually go to the other side, or through the veil as they call it in this book. And so she can see ghosts, and she lives in America, so she doesn't really encounter that many ghosts. But her parents are really interested in the topic of ghosts, and they actually write books about them, and they're very famous in like the ghost hunting world. And they get the opportunity to have a TV show featuring the most haunted cities in the world. And so their first stop is Edinburgh. So this book follows Cass's adventures in Edinburgh, and she encounters many ghosts, some of which are not so pleasant. And she also has a best friend who is actually a ghost. And I loved reading about Jacob. He added quite a bit of comic relief. And this book was spooky but not too scary, which is perfect because I'm a total wimp. I ended up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars because I do think that it was a little bit short. I do understand that it's obviously a middle grade book, so it needs to be kept quite short because, you know, you don't want to lose their interest. But for me, I would have loved a little bit more development in the story. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to read the next installment. The next book that I finished in the month was a reread for me, and that was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I just had such a craving to read this book after watching the movie 3 times. I absolutely love the movie. I will definitely be rewatching it soon because I have just obviously reread this, so I really am in the mood to watch it again and compare. But I read this book for the first time last year in August, and I just couldn't resist rereading it because it is so cute and adorable. If for some strange reason you don't know what this book is all about, this book follows our main character Laura Jean, and she writes love letters to the boys that she has crush on in order to get over them. So she just pours out all of her feelings into these letters, she addresses them, she puts them in her hat box, and she just leaves them. And then one day, all of the letters get sent out, and it follows the repercussions of this. And this book is just so adorable and just so much fun to read. If you haven't read this trilogy yet, you're missing out because it's so much fun. But yeah, I just had to reread it because I just couldn't resist, and I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, because I love it so much. And I will be continuing on rereading the rest of the series as well. I actually already have read the 2nd book, but I finished that in October, so I'll be talking about it in my October wrap-up. I'll definitely be reading the 3rd book really soon as well. But yeah, it's adorable, and if you haven't read it, pick it up for sure because it's so good. The 6th and final book that I read in the month of September was Only Child by Rhiannon Navin. I actually was sent this book, and I'm doing a video with the publisher of this book, so I've sent this book in order to review it. This book follows our main character Zach, who is 6 years old, and he has just unfortunately experienced a school shooting in his elementary school, and it follows the events that occur afterwards and dealing with the grief of this terrible event and to happen to such a young child as well. It's really tough to read, but it's kind of like a Room in a way because it deals with such a heavy topic, but it's told from a child's point of view. This book is obviously not my typical sort of read because, as you probably know from watching my channel, or if you're new here, hello. I read mostly young adult, but I typically do not read like adult general fiction. It's not my normal read. So reading this was a very different experience for me, but I did really enjoy this book. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. For me, I rate books a 5-star if I absolutely love it, and then I rate it a 4-star if it was really good, but there were things that just like made it not perfect for me. So this book was really good, but it just wasn't like the absolute perfect book for me. I did think some parts were a little bit boring for me personally, but my mom also read this book because we were actually doing the video together, and she really enjoyed it, and she flew through it, and my mom is not a reader at all. So the fact that she flew through it is just telling you something. I think I just didn't enjoy it as much because this is not my genre in particular, but I think it was a really interesting read, especially if you're looking for something that deals with the school shooting or just something that is a bit heavier than your typical read, because I know that some people are really into like the hard-hitting contemporaries, and I totally get that. So this would be perfect for you if you enjoy that kind of book, but it was not the perfect read for me, so I only gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But anyway, on to the books that I bought in the month. So as I said, I acquired 4 books during the month. The first one that I bought was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I've already talked about this. I absolutely loved it. I had to have this on pre-order because it's Victoria Schwab and she's one of my favorite authors, so I just had to get it as soon as it came out. The next book that I acquired in the month is one I also already talked about, and that was Only Child by Rhiannon Navin. I received this book from the publisher in exchange for an honest review. I also bought 2 more books in the month. The first one is one that I'm so unbelievably excited for, and that was Vengeful by V. Schwab. This is the long-awaited sequel for the book of Vicious, also by V. Schwab. I haven't started it yet because I'm currently rereading Vicious, but I will be getting to this very soon. If you didn't know, Vicious was one of my favorite books ever when I read it. It follows 2 characters, Victor and Eli, who used to be best friends. Like 10 years ago when they were in university, they were best friends and they were roommates. Oh my god, they were roommates. And then it follows Victor 10 years later and they are no longer friends. Victor's just gotten out of prison and he is on a mission to get revenge on Eli. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's amazing, but just literally just pick it up. It's so good and I'm so excited to read this book. I haven't heard any reviews of it yet, but I don't want to hear any reviews. I want to make up my own mind. But yeah, I absolutely love the hardcover edition as well. I'll definitely be picking up Vicious in this edition soon as well because, but you know, your girl's broke and I have bills to take care of now that I'm back at uni. So the final book that I bought in the month is kind of an interesting one, but this semester I'm taking a literature course again. I think it's called Latino Literature and Culture in America. We're going to be reading literature that is written by people who have a Latino or Hispanic background who now live in America. So I'm really interested to start doing it, but I have 4 books that I have to read for that. And the first one I already have, and that is How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents by Julia Alvarez. I don't really know what this book's about. I have to read it for my course, so I'm excited to get to it and hopefully I enjoy it. It's the same professor who taught my literature course last year and she chose some really great books, so I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy at least one of the books that I have to read for it. So yeah, I hope so, because I'll have to write an essay on one of them. But those are all of the books that I read and bought in the month of September. I'm sorry that this video is a little bit weird because it's like cut in half, but I didn't want to bring books with me that I wasn't going to be reading, so I left them at home. But yeah, that is everything that I read in September. Let me know how your reading month went down below. I was in such a reading mood in September, so hopefully it will continue on for the rest of the year because I think I might reach 50 books this year. That would be awesome because it's been a while since I read 50. But that's all that I have for today's video, so I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. Please let me know what you read down below. I'd love to know. And I upload videos on Fridays, so I will see you next Friday with another video. Bye!